All right, welcome. It is June 2025. Welcome to our monthly customer webinar. If this is your first time here, because we've just met, welcome to you. If you are returning, welcome back. We know that our customers are getting a lot of value from this, and we're really excited for when these do come about. And so, as we do every single month, we've got a jam-packed schedule. We're going to be doing some demos today and some different use cases. And so let's go through what that agenda looks like. But before we do, if you have no idea who I am, my name is Marquis. I'm the CEO at Surface. We are a intelligent systems design consultancy, and we work with customers to help them improve their operations, their workflows, the collaboration and coordination amongst their teams. But most importantly, we're here to help you get the most out of your Asana investment. And we also have joining the stage today our recently new head of delivery, Brandon Llewellyn, who's going to be supporting some AI Studio demos today. And so really excited to have Brandon joining us for the first time on the stage. So you won't just hear me droning on the whole time. You'll hear from someone else on our team who's equally as skilled, if not more skilled in AI
Okay.
Studio than myself. Perfect. So let's go through the agenda here quickly. So again, we've got some updates for you, just some company updates, just to keep you informed of what's happening here at Surface. And then we're going to get into four new features that our team is prescribing. So quickly, new variables in Slack. Multi-task triggers for different rules, custom work schedules in the project settings, and then some AI Studio rules, pre-built rules to help you get started. And then we're going to dive deep into three very different use cases for how you can start to implement AI Studio as well. So again, jam-packed schedule. Hope you are excited like we are. And so if you do have a question, please feel free to raise your hand or drop something in the Q&A. We've got Tess B, one of our teammates backstage who's supporting and will make us aware of what's going on. We're also going to be running a poll today. And in order for those to work, we need your participation. So when you see the poll pop up, please just click the little button to just show us that you're out there. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. And as we always do, I want to start off by just requesting that if you've enjoyed working with our team, you've gotten value out of the service we provided, we'd love to hear from you in the form of a five-star review that you can post on our partner directory. And so by doing that, you help us to be able to get in front of and serve more customers just like you. So if you've got a five-star review in you, scan the QR code and leave it there. If you don't have a five-star review in you and you'd love to give us some feedback, send me an email instead. I'd love to have a conversation and see how we can close the gap for you. All right, just a quick reminders. We are a documentation company. We believe heavily in documentation and process. And so we've taken some extra steps to provide clarity through documentation for you. So if you navigate to our website, Surface Help Center is there under the resources. You can search pretty much anything around setting up SSO or SAML inside of your admin console to how training works, to how to make custom connections, and any other frequently asked questions that we get from customers or people that are thinking about taking on Surface as their consultancy of choice. And so feel free to go and navigate the knowledge base. If there's something that you're searching that isn't there, we'll be notified and we can at least add it to the knowledge base as well. But just another way we want to help to serve you all. And so, quick update. I was in Vancouver, Canada last month, forgive me, for Web Summit 2025. It was the first time that it was in Vancouver, about 15,000 attendees, and we were there representing Asana. And so we had a booth set up, and it was a really great opportunity to showcase our partnership between Asana and Surface. We met with so many incredible people, customers, future customers, current customers, and just onlookers, people who were really curious. We did demos there. We chatted with so many people, and I think for the first couple of days, there wasn't 5 minutes that went by where I wasn't talking or, yelling at a crowd of people, conducting a demo. So really exciting. I had the opportunity to bring my family along, so my kids got to come to the show. And they actually said, Dad, I thought this was going to be so boring, but it wasn't. We had such a great time. So, Web Summit, if you haven't checked it out, it's one of the premier tech and online conferences in North America. Lots of great startups talking about AI and really shaping the future of what tech will look like in the future in North America. So, really great opportunity, lots of fun there. Just wanted to share that quick update with you all. Another quick update here is that Surface has gone through a bit of a repositioning. You may have received an email from us or seen something on social media. We've made a slight shift from simply workflow design to AI-powered workflow design, right? And so leading with AI, not just because everyone's talking about it, but it's because of the way that Asana has rebuilt the platform around AI, right? Building in agents and smart workflows to help all of us work better. And so I just wanted to share that little shift that, there's so many capabilities, and we're going to share, again, 3 use cases today for what that looks like. But if you're on the website and you think, hey, it looks a little bit different, what's going on here? This is it. This is us leaning into the AI kind of space and just making this the forefront of our business. So wanted to share that quick update. Now, let's get into the 4 features that we are prescribing. So the first one is now you can add in Asana variables into your Slack messages when building rules. So this is available for anyone that's on the starter plan or above. When you're building your custom rules, you can add in the Slack app to that, and you can now add in variables into your rule building. And so when you go in, you can click on the message body, you can add variables. Let's actually go over to Asana to take a look at exactly what that looks like. So when we navigate to customize, we can go and build a rule in. This one's already pre-built for us. So this simply says, when a task is completed or when it's changed, we want to check if it's complete, and then we want to send a Slack channel message, okay? Right here in our message body, we can obviously choose the channel we want it to go to. In this case, let's send it to our water cooler at Surface, and we can have our different headings like so. And then we can now click on variables to add information directly from Asana. If we were using AI, we could let AI populate the message with what it thinks is relevant to the people receiving it. But then we can pull in relevant task information. So we can say something like this, task name. We can then say task description, and we can add a little bit of structure to what the message will look like. We can even put in the due date, like so, and we can use variables to populate all that information to really structure the message in the way that will make it easy for anyone receiving it to receive the information and take action with it. Then we can publish that rule, all right? If you're unsure of how to get Slack in to your rules here, let's just publish this one and back out for a second. All right, we are frozen there. When we go and we add our rule, right, we have our trigger. So let's try that again. We have our trigger, tasks move to a section. We want to do this, and then we'll go to our external actions tab on the right side, and we can choose to send a channel message or a direct message to a user. All right, so try that out for yourself and let us know how it goes. Number 2 is you can now run manual rule checks on bulk items. All right. And so if you were not aware, if you are building a rule inside of Asana and testing that rule out before it goes live, rather than having to meet the conditions of the rule every time by moving it to that section or updating the custom field, you can add a starting trigger that says when this rule is run manually, you can give that manual rule run a name. And formerly, you could only do this with one task at a time. But now you can select multiple tasks to run said rule. And so when I do right click on a task, we have an option where I can run a rule manually. Again, this is for the purposes of testing, or if we want a human in the loop to validate something before we move the task to the next stage. So in this case, I have two options to summarize the attachment within the task or draft a response in a subtask. So I can do that for a single task like so, or I can shift, click, select multiple tasks. And then in our little pill that pops up down here, we can now see we can run a rule on multiple tasks all at once. And so we can send those to draft subtask responses all at once so that we can see how this rule works in real time. So go and try that. If you're unfamiliar with how to get started with that, we can go back to add, create custom rule, and in the when, so the trigger spot, you'll see the first option here is run a rule manually, and we'll name this rule test. And then that is the trigger, right? Rather than meeting another condition or having to be moved somewhere, we can now do this manually. All right. Let's get back to our slides. Number 3, custom work schedules. This one was one that has been asked for a long time. And so we've done a few of these demos recently where to really support working hours across global teams that are in different time zones, Asana has implemented this kind of working hours schedule. And so you could really only have, like a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 kind of, framework before, but now you can add in custom solutions. And so this also supports the new SLA features that are in Asana, where Asana will not assign a task to you if it's outside of your working hours. If an SLA does not align with the working hours, then we can pause the SLA automatically. If there is a comment that's being sent to the submitter, we can pause the SLA. We can restart the SLA timer as well. So there's lots of really cool customizations that are coming into this. And so when we go to our project, we will go up to customize, and then we'll see our project settings here at the bottom. All right. Then you'll see that you can assign working hours to be business days, Monday to Friday, and then you can change your working hours there. You can update the time zone that you are operating in. But if we go and click on custom, now we can change our working schedule to be specific days like so, and then we can change the times there. So if we have any support people or even offshore team that works, only certain days of the week, then Asana will consider those working hours before scheduling tasks to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks and everyone remains informed as well. So if you haven't set up your project settings yet, go and take a look. It's helping a lot of teams really align around the work, making sure that deadlines are made versus missed. And the last update here we have for you, I love this one. We love rules, we love customization, but with the move to AI, Asana is making it way easier for those who are not comfortable or familiar with building rules or building GPTs or gems, so much easier by giving you a framework to start with. So like our custom rules, I showed you the example of the Slack message that was pre-built for us. So now we have the option to select from different use cases. So within Asana, you can automatically name tasks. There's a custom AI Studio rule already built for you that you can customize for your use case. If you want to translate comments into different languages, there's one here with instructions pre-built, ready to go for you. Check for missing information. I'm actually going to show you how that one works today, right? Automatically change due dates. Whatever your use case, summarizing attachments, drafting responses, Asana's built a quick kind of check to get you there faster. And so that's where I'm going to start my demo today. But before I do, let's just take a quick poll. I would love to know, this is where I need your participation, please and thanks. I would love to know, have you tried AI Studio yet inside of Asana? We've got a yes, we have, and a no. And I'll wait 10 to 15 seconds for you to make your choice there. No, all right. Oh, we're half and half. All right, we're coming through. Okay, we're still about half and half. I think we're still waiting on some folks to click the button. I'll wait 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Looks like we are 67% to 33 in favor of yes, we have. All right. So good to know that you've seen it. You are testing it out a little bit. We're going to show you some use cases here in a minute. But before we do, I just want to clarify what the differences are between the traditional rule builder inside of Asana and what the new AI rule builder looks like. So in the traditional sense, the method that still works and we still love, right? It's very powerful. It's triggered based on simple conditions, like when this happens, if this is true, or if this is not true, then do this. So we can really custom tailor what we want Asana to do for us. It requires a human in the loop to think through all of that. It always follows those predetermined steps. It's not gonna, think outside of that box that you're putting it in. And you're limited to the explicit instructions that you provide it. Again, great method. I use it every single day. Lots of great use cases for it. What the evolution of this looks like, though, is having an AI teammate or an agent. We're hearing a lot of that language these days. We're hearing a lot of that language around agents on the platforms. And so what this is allowing us to do is it's triggered by natural language. So we're talking to this thing, we're giving it instructions, we're providing it context through information that we're providing it. This could be files in our Google Drive. This could be PDFs or documents. It has access to our projects. It can gain access to specific tasks. It can look at policies and guidelines. It has access to the internet if we want that, right? And so there's a lot of context it can pull from. And then it can adapt based on that context, the input that is in the task or in the space and the information that it's been given access to. And it can interpret that information, classify, summarize, and then recommend. So think of a smarter way to automate the work we're already automating by introducing a teammate into the fold. And so what this is doing for us, it's not just introducing like another layer. This is not another builder. This is not an add-on, right? As I mentioned, and you'll see in a moment here, the platform has been rebuilt around having AI in the platform to allow for less busy work, right? It handles your complex decision making, routine summarization, smarter decisions. It's helping us to plan ahead, whether it's subtasks or to do research for us, and it's helping us make decisions based on information that we're giving it. And it can adapt to our changing workflows as well. And increased productivity as well. So less back and forth means fewer bottlenecks, faster projects, less meetings, less uncertainty, less ambiguity within our teams as well. All right, so let's get into our demo. now. All right. We're going to go through 3 use cases. I'm going to show you what it looks like in intake and requests flow. We're going to use the check for information, and then I'm going to hand it over to Brandon. So you can stop listening to my voice and go through content creation. This is a workflow that we put together that's going to actually create blog content for you and emails for you based on submitted information. And we also have one that we're calling the process police, one that we're using to help teams stay on top of the work that they're doing. So before we get there, I'm going to switch over to Asana now. Drop it in the chat for me. I would love to know what's one workflow you'd love to automate in AI Studio. Think of that one that involves the most amount of people. It provides the most problems. There are gaps there. You're constantly trying to rework it, or there's clear space for optimization. Love you to drop it in the chat so that we can have that there as an example. But let's switch over. So I've got my project here, okay? And what we have here is a creative requests and intake. And so this use case would be someone in our company is requesting assets, could be video, photography, images, copy, content, and they need the design team or the branding team to create that content. And so we would have a form. That person would submit a form. It would come in, and our manager, whether it's a product manager or a brand manager, would receive that request. And what happens next? Do we get to work on that? Do we start resourcing? Maybe. But what we've experienced 9 times out of 10 is there isn't enough information, right? Even though we've asked all the questions, the responses are quite vague, and we have to go and chase that person down. We have to book a meeting with that individual, and we have to gather that information. And sometimes that can take days and weeks, thus delaying these campaigns and creation of these assets that were requested in the first place. So we're going to show you a use case for how we can overcome that. And so I'm going to go to my form up here. All right. The request type is going to be photography in this case. And the summary of my request, I'm just going to use natural language. We need new images for a global campaign. And then I can say, we are launching a new brand, and we need images for a new campaign. So I'm going to be vague on purpose, but of course you could add in any amount of fields you have here. You could have the asset type, you could have the dimensions, you could add due dates to say when you need this by. But we see that even when you do that, there's still disalignment around what the deliverables actually are, and we need that time, we need that space with that person to gather that information. Okay, and so this in any case is working to eliminate that. All right, I don't have any assets to share in this case. Anything else we need? I need this quickly, please, because we always need these things yesterday, right? So let's go and submit that. And it's going to come into our photography section. There it is right there. We need new images for a global campaign. I want you to just fix your eyes on that title for a second. What AI is doing right now is it's looking at the submission, and it's doing a few things. It's got a few jobs. If you just saw it there, the first thing it has to do is rename the title of the task, right? So the request comes in, and rather than having it be the unformatted title that I gave it, or the summary that I gave it, it's renamed it to request new images for global campaign. And we can see that right here where it's automatically renamed that task. All right. Now its second job is to check for missing information. So right now it's working on that. It's checking for missing information because I've asked it to. So let's go in and see the reasoning. So thoughts. This task lacks sufficient information on the photography project. While it mentions needing images for a global campaign, it does not provide critical details such as specific project goals, number of images needed, specific locations, right? We didn't give it that information. And so it knows that there's a problem, right? And it knows that it now has to intervene. Okay, so it's completed two jobs. First one was automatically renaming, and then the second was checking for missing information. Now it's working on its third job. All right, so it's thinking right now, it's going to do one more thing for us because now we have to actually do something with this information. And there we go. It's completed its third job all by itself. I've asked it to create a comment that says to the submitter, right? Hi, Marquis, to help us process your photography request for the new brand's global campaign, could you please provide more details? What specific types of images are you looking for? Can you describe the key visual elements? What are the primary markets, right? And so this is feedback to possibly myself as the person owning this board to update my form to get more specific, or we could just leave it to AI, but it's also informing the submitter that, hey, you missed some steps here, right? We need more information from you. But it didn't just leave it at that. It's also gone a second step and it's actually created a subtask for me. So it's assigned to me for today, provide additional details for global campaign photography. And when I click into that subtask, it's then gone and highlighted those same questions. So we need more info, describe specific visual requirements, outline key messaging, and so on. And so it's taken the job of, someone who would typically triage this, have to go track that person down, book the meeting, have the meeting, request the assets, wait for the assets to come back, reconfirm. And again, we're just cutting out all of that time now. And so I'm going to show you what happened briefly here in the backend. When we go into customize, we're going to go to rules here and add. And here are all the different options that you can select from. Okay, so if you want to try it out for yourself, it's available on your platform for free. There are different paid levels based on how frequently you're going to use it and how complex you need to get, but go ahead and try it today. And so I'm going to go into our check for missing information. And we've said that when a task is added to the project, we want to check that the task does not have sufficient information. So if it doesn't, then we want it to do a few things. We want it to add a comment in the task. And so what that looks like is we've selected the add a comment option. And rather than putting the comment in ourselves, we've said, AI, you figure it out. And then we've said, create a subtask. What do we want to call that subtask? AI, you figure it out. Then we go into edit. And in the description, right, rather than us saying what it's going to be, it's pulling context again from the submission. And we're saying, AI, you figure it out. All right. And so in order then to better guide it, we want to do a couple of things. First, we want to select our model, right? So we have various models on the platform, everything as small as GPT-4o Mini from OpenAI to Claude 3.5 Haiku, O3 Mini from OpenAI, O1 from OpenAI, and we just got Claude Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 on the platform. We have GPT-4o as well as Claude 3.5. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. We're choosing models because each of these models are specifically designed for certain tasks, right? So something like renaming a task or, creating a summary or creating subtasks can be used by a smaller model. If you were here last month, you would have seen my car analogy that if you need to, get from here to the store, you could take, a compact car or you could take a luxury vehicle. You're going to have to put more gas or better gas, I should say, in that premium vehicle to get to the same place when maybe you could have just taken the compact car with, 87. Octane. And so the model will kind of determine how many credits you're using, and it's all determined on the inputs, so the instructions you're giving it, as well as what the output is, what you're expecting it to do on the other side. And so there are little descriptors below them. If you're unsure, again, test it out for yourself. But there is some flexibility in the models we can use. Last thing I'll show you here is the guidance, right? So we said that we want to use natural language here. We want to shape the output of this. And so in my guidance here, I said you are triaging incoming tasks to see if they have sufficient information for someone to work on. Tasks with sufficient information to be triaged will have a clear description of the work needed, a due date, relative time, whether this task depends on any other work. When you write your comment, this is how I want you to write said comment. When you create your subtask, this is how I want you to create said subtask. All right. If you did have any guidelines or policies and procedures, brand guidelines specifically, for maybe this example, you can attach those here. You can add a file. Okay. It will then reference those files. You can link to your Google Drive. We could actually mention tasks in this or projects in this that we wanted it to reference as well. If there was information there that we needed it to glean, right? So we can give it all that information. And then in this case, we've given it access to the World Wide Web to do any research or planning for us. So these AI teammates are getting smarter. They're literally a click away, and they can be integrated into the work that we are doing every single day. So I hope that helped to give you an overview and a sample of what AI Studio can do for you in your work. I'm going to hand it over to Brandon, though, at this point to showcase some way cooler use cases that can't just be implemented by a little click here in the back end of Asana. So Brandon, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing yourself justice there. That was a cool flow. I guess you're using the pre-built rules anyways. And so there's a lot more you can do. There's a lot of customization you can do. And we do a lot of demos for prospective clients here at Surface for those who are looking at getting into work with us. And so we've built a lot on the back end to show all this different customization that we can do with AI Studio. And so I have a couple of examples that I want to show you. So I'll share my screen here and we'll show you those in motion and also show you the back end on how they typically work. Okay, good. So here we are in Miro. Imagine you are a marketing department. Maybe you're creating content for your internal team, or maybe you're delivering work like campaigns for your clients. But in any case, let's just say that you work for a department that needs to create content of some sort. And the flow I want to show you is how you can use AI to generate first drafts of that content. Of course, you can go on GPT and do that, but how can we do it all in one in Asana and also bake it into the workflow that you'll need to do so that you don't have to leave Asana to do it. It'll do it for you. And again, it'll be all baked into that step-by-step end-to-end process of creating content for campaigns. And so here's a fake process where maybe you've got some form of starting point where someone on your team needs a campaign done on some form of topic. And it's part of their process to have a human come in and send an input through, which is like a form submission, like you saw Marquis do in one of his previous examples. And the expected output from AI would be that like a brief gets generated from that for the team to work on. They can use it. And they can the information can be extracted from that form submission, posted in the description of a task, and that's the home for your team to work on and create that stuff and collaborate and review AI stuff and all that kind of stuff. Maybe after that, you've got like a human coming in to review the AI's work and submit the rest of the information. So another input from your team where you're giving all the details you need to know, all the details the AI needs to know to confidently create your content drafts for you. And so the next step in this process would be an output where the AI could generate that content, and they'll do that for all the kinds of whatever it is you need for that campaign. So in this case, if it's a blog post and some email copy, it'll generate that and then go to the next step, which is like another human review or going live with it or whatever it might be. It's a pretty straightforward process. And so we've got a board here where that form can be submitted and that process can be started. And so imagine that I'm working in the sales department and I want a campaign to go out for us. So I reach out to the campaigns team and I say, my name is Brandon. I want a blog post and an email blast, delivered for this topic. And here is an attachment of my choosing in the format of my choosing with what I'm thinking, at least right now. It's like pretty basic and it's pretty simplified, but let's get something on here and get this process started. So I'll submit this and we'll see this show up in our pipeline. So you'll see that a form submission has been received and is now in the intake section. And similar to what you saw in one of Marquis' rules, I have a naming rule added here as well. So instead of it coming up as a general submission for some kind of content, you'll see in real time in the background, you might have just seen that we have a new name. And so we have the kind of content that we're doing. So what's the topic? And also the deliverables, a blog post and an email blast, and the timing. And so this is more of a custom naming rule, but in any case, it still works. And it just saves your team the clicks. But you've already seen this, so let's get on to the next step. Um, Maybe it's time to go to the next step where we want AI to generate a brief for us. Again, we have inputs. We want Asana to extract those inputs and give us a place to work from. So let's go ahead and move it to the next section where we have AI come in and draft a brief for us. So we'll just kind of watch this happen in real time because this should be relatively quick. And if you are wondering where to watch your AI think, make sure you go to the All Activity tab where you'll be able to see in real time it thinking through whether or not to run a rule or what it's checking for or any of that stuff. And so at some point, we'll see that come through here. The point of this is for it to update the description, and that has happened. And so now the description of this request that we put through is our brief. It's our campaign brief, and the information that it had was basically that I wanted a blog post and an email draft, and I submitted that attachment that was I think a PDF form. So it extracted the information, and now it's in the description, and it's also created a subtask for me here at the bottom. And it basically says, let's get a human in here to review the brief, make sure it's good, and then provide all the other information that we'll need to actually create that content for you. So right now we're at the human review point. And so we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the subtask. We'll review our draft. If we like it, we'll go ahead and we'll check that off. And we'll attach whatever other information it is that they need to, again, create that content, create the blog post, or create the email copy. And so I'll go ahead and I'll upload that in whatever format you need. This could also be typed out, but in this case, I just assume that the process is some form of attachment. And so I have uploaded that and we'll move on to the next step, which is draft creation. And so we want the AI to draft the content for us. So we move it into the next step and it's going to start running and working in the background. This one might take a second. And so I've actually preemptively had this rule run just to show you what it'll look like when it's done. This might take like 2 or 3 minutes, but we're live. And so I'm just going to show you exactly what it would look like if it was to run. And we'll go back later so I'm not lying. So basically, if we open up our task here for our AI content summaries feature, here is our brief, as you've already seen. But now we have some new subtasks here. We have a subtask per deliverable. So whenever I filled in the form, I asked it for, I think, a blog and email copy. And so we have one for each of those. And we have a human that's been assigned to review that drafted content. So Matthias has a responsibility to come in here. It's an approval task. So you can see here that Matthias has an option to either approve it, request changes, or reject it. And when he opens up that subtask, this is where the content is. So AI generated content, this is it. This is the, in this case, the email blast. So we have the subject line, the header, the copy of the email. So Maddie can come in here, take a look at it, approve it, and then move on to the next step, maybe go live with it or whatever. And then we have the other content, which I suppose will be the blog post. So we open that one up. Maddie will take a look at it. If he likes it, that's great. If he wants to change it, he can change it and move on to the next step in the process. But that's basically having AI come in here and draft these kinds of deliverables for us per deliverable for each individual campaign. The way that this process would work is like this is one request, and it would move down into the active campaign section. And that's where it might become its own project, and not just a task, but its own project with multiple different sections and lots of things to do. But the point is that AI is giving you guys a head start. It's giving your writers a head start. And so you can have something to work from with all the information you've already provided it, which is great. One thing I want to mention here is that um, I'm representing human inputs with purple, and then I'm representing AI outputs with blue. But there's also a way to make this process even more easy for your team because I don't actually like the idea of having humans having to input this stuff in the form twice. The question that I want to ask is, how can we change this process to have AI help us not only with the outputs here, but also with our inputs? So maybe, when we submit this campaign request and we have to like, maybe we've got like, I don't know, 10 questions to answer, it's possible that we can actually use AI to answer half of them or to answer 3 or 4 of those questions by doing a web search or pulling that information in from somewhere else in your Asana instance. But in any case, this is good. And this would be even better to have these become more of less of a human needing to do it and more of an AI needing to do it, which would just allow you guys more time and more headspace and all that kind of stuff. So that is the first workflow, which is using AI to generate your content. Um, I'll pause there real quick. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them about this. And if not, I'll move on to the other demo that I've got ready for today. Not everybody at once, please.
Maybe they're saving them for the end.
Yeah, save it for the end, everybody. Okay. So the next one, Marky, do you want to bring up the deck or should I just go right into it, you think?
If you want to go on to the next one, yep.
Yeah, so it was called Process Police. It's a completely different process that I'll show you guys. I'm just going to bring up my environment here real quick, so just bear with me. Okay. Okay, so we should be good here. So yeah, again, the topic was Process Police, and I want you to imagine that you are in a company that does things. And so if you're doing that and you're in a company that does things, and you probably have processes to follow, right? When you do something, you have rules about how that something gets done and who does that and when they do that. That's a process. And sometimes process compliance with your team, whether you're on the receiving end of not doing a process right, or you're on the giving end of, slapping wrists when processes don't get followed, it isn't that fun. And encouraging process compliance can be a bit cumbersome. And it's kind of a vibe killer in some ways, right? Like, remember to do this again and again and again. And I can think of scenarios where I was in the receiving end of that. And for whatever reason, I couldn't remember to do that one thing after a client call. And so I had a thought to myself, like, uh, how can we encourage process compliance through something that's friendly and not a vibe killer, but makes me remember it for the next time? And that's where I thought of this kind of like friendly roasting or public shaming of people who don't follow processes. And that might be a bit harsh, so just bear with me. I'm a nice person, I swear. Um, Imagine you are in a company and you're doing this work, and this is how your client projects look, where you've got like onboarding tasks to do for a project, and then you've got like your client calls that you're working on, and then you've got like your backlog tasks, and this is where a project will get done. Um, and now imagine that you're Jamie and you're doing calls for clients, but you have a process to follow where after you host a call, you always paste the transcript of that call in the comment section of that task. That's the process for you to follow. Everybody knows it, but you never get it right. Or sometimes you forget. What's a way that we can encourage Jamie to remember that and to be a bit playful? Um, and the answer is through Asana AI. So I've created a rule here where if basically uh, a call task gets completed that doesn't have a transcript pasted in the comment section down here, then it's going to run a rule that actually connects to Slack. And it's going to basically publicly shame Jamie for not following the rules. But it's really playful. So I'll show you the rule in the back end and then we'll run it together. So if I go to the Customize tab here on this project, and then I go to our rules, here's my rule for public shaming in Slack. And you're actually going to find this familiar because Marquis showed you this external connection earlier on today's call, where you can send a channel message in Slack based on a trigger from Asana. And so this rule says that when a task gets completed, check if that task is a client call. And the way we define that is by being in the section client calls. And if it is, and there is not a transcript that's been commented on the task, which is our AI condition, then let's send a message into our Slack channel to basically say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have, a process breach has been detected. This person, again, has not followed the process. It's very, light. The audit logs are judging you. The process police are watching. Let's light a candle for the process discipline and hope this never happens again. Like, this is pretty cute. It's pretty funny, I think. I'll pat myself on the back for that. But I think importantly, like, it's something that I think Jamie wouldn't forget. And maybe Jamie's colleagues would have really fun poking fun at her for this while also encouraging actually doing the process. But it's not as boring as saying like, hey, Jamie, please follow this process because it's not going to be remembered in that way. And so I like the idea of having something playful like this installed into maybe your templates. And so let's see this in action. If I'm Jamie and I just completed a discovery call for a client, I'll go ahead and I will press complete. And as you know, the comment section right now is blank. There's no way that I've posted a transcript here. So what should happen is AI should check for that. And if it sees that there's no transcript, it's going to send a message to our Slack channel. And so you can see here that we're reviewing the task, looking at the task, discovery calls have been completed. However, there's no transcript. Therefore, I'm going to run that rule. And so in the background now, it's running the rule, which is basically connecting the Slack and sending a message through into our environment. And I'll show you our Slack without I'm trying not to leak any information here. Here is our testing integration section that I've hooked it up with. And here is the message that you might have seen from our rule. There's a process breach, process police are watching you. Please be careful and make sure that you're following the process whenever you have a call. Please, perform the sacred ritual by reopening the task, pasting in the transcript, and then completing the task again. And so, yeah, that's basically it in process. Again, I've been on the receiving end of this too many times because it's so easy to forget things like this. And so I'd recommend installing something like this in your environment if you want to get playful with it.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I'll take the screen back
Yeah, sounds
here.
good.
Perfect. So we'd love to take any questions. I'm going to start calling you George Orwell. How about that? Feeling very, very big brother here today, but I love the process police. We are definitely process people and we believe in it. Before we get going, are there any other questions? I'll wait for 7 seconds before moving on here. We usually get questions after via email. So if you'd prefer to deliver it in that method, no questions, just epic. Thank you, Annabelle. Love that. All right, let's keep it going then. We showed you a few use cases today. The possibilities are limitless. I built another AI Studio solution where there was a project that acted as like a product component database, right? For a manufacturing company, where if they needed to build a part, it would search this other database of components. It would reference the inventory. If we didn't have the inventory there, it would then send a message back and it would research the net, or it can get in touch with a vendor to re-up, right? So there are so many possibilities. But if you wanted to get a better sense of what this could look like for your team, we are running until the end of July, AI Studio like demos. Like just anyone who wants to see it will come in with your team. We will build a use case for you. We'll show you the capabilities so that it can make a bit more sense for you and your team. So we'd love you to, if you're interested in that, to scan the QR code. You'll meet with Jackie initially just to get a sense of what it is you're looking for. She'll gather some information, and then one of our solutions engineers will build a custom tailored demo for you to showcase what this could look like in your space with your work. So make sure you take us up on that, because I'm sure you've seen, as you know, people are saying it is epic and there's so many great use cases for it. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Um, and I'll ask one more time. Any questions? Three, two, one. All right. Well, thanks so much for another great month. Thank you for just following us and trusting us with your work and inviting us into your spaces with your teams. We know that there's always a lot riding on, these kinds of things when it comes to work and efficiency. And so we just want to thank you for being great partners, and allowing us to help you improve how you and your teams work better together. Thanks so much. We'll see you next month. Bye for now.